We begin today with a scandal that's not really a scandal, but is at least worth talking about because it does say something about the left's perspective and Hollywood's perspective on America. It is, as they say, one of the reasons President Trump is president. This particular scandal comes courtesy of Damien Chazelle. Now, this makes me sad because Damien Chazelle is one of the best directors working today. He did Whiplash and then he did La La Land, and his new movie looks great. It's a biopic titled First Man about Neil Armstrong, who was the first man to walk on the moon. And this stars Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong. But there's one problem. The movie apparently omits the American flag. Why is that a big deal, you say? Because the most crucial moment, the picture that everyone cares about from the actual moon landing, is Neil Armstrong raising the American flag on the moon. This is sort of like doing a movie about the Battle of Iwo Jima and not having the guys raise an American flag. Instead, they just decide to raise an empty flagpole with like an emoji sticker on it or something. Right? It makes no sense at all. It's an iconic moment in American history. But Ryan Gosling, who is Canadian, says that he thinks that Neil Armstrong saw himself more as a world citizen than as an American hero, which makes no sense at all. He says, "I think this was widely regarded in the end as a human achievement, and that's how we chose to view it." Well, not by Americans, it wasn't. Not by Americans. It turns out that when America was putting a man on the moon, China, which is the real reason why they're not putting the American flag in this film, is because they're afraid that it'll piss off the Chinese censors, and they want to make sure that the Chinese market goes to see the film, so they've removed the American flag. It's the same reason that long ago, when they made Superman Returns, they omitted truth, justice, and the American way. They turned it into truth, justice, and all that other stuff. Hollywood is really, really afraid of ticking off foreign audiences with all of the America. There's only one problem with that logic, which is that nobody in foreign countries actually cares whether American films promote America, because it turns out America's a pretty freaking amazing place. Like, we put a man on the moon. That's one of the pieces of proof, actually. So Ryan Gosling, Canadian, says, "I also think Neil was extremely humble, as were many of these astronauts, and time again, he deferred the focus from himself to the 400,000 people who made the mission possible." Those 400,000 people would have been Americans, by the way, who worked for the American government. He was reminding everyone that he was just the tip of the iceberg, and that's not just to be humble, that's also true. So I don't think Neil viewed himself as an American hero. From my interviews with his family and people that knew him, it was quite the opposite, and we wanted the film to reflect Neil. Alternatively, Hollywood is just catering to foreign audiences, and so they're going to omit the American flag in a blatant attempt to grab Chinese money. But let's be clear. Putting a man on the moon was an American mission. It was not a world mission. It was an American mission. JFK, who announced the original mission to put a man on the moon, when he did this, when he talked about why we would put a man on the moon, he explicitly linked it to America's special role in the world as a provider of freedom. Remember, this is the middle of the Cold War, and there was a lot of talk in those days, like right about this time, about the Russians putting a man into space on the Sputnik satellite. And JFK decided, okay, we're going to fight back against that by actually going far beyond that. We'll put a man on the moon. Putting an American flag on the moon was the point of the endeavor.